One morning, a married couple named Ray and Joanne had an argument after celebrating Thanksgiving at Joanne's parents' house. Their daughter, Perry, who was sitting in the back seat, asked her father to stop the car because she needed to use the bathroom. Soon after, Ray stopped the car at a gas station. Joanne got out to take their daughter to the restroom. Meanwhile, Ray went into the convenience store to buy a drink. Although he still had to drive, Ray, who was already upset because of the earlier argument, bought 2 bottles of alcohol. After everyone returned to the car, Perry mentioned that she couldn't find her toy. Joanne went back to the restroom to look for it and asked Ray to check the back seat. But Ray accidentally spilled his coffee. While he was busy cleaning up the spilled coffee, Perry walked towards a construction area after seeing a balloon stuck there. Suddenly, a stray dog appeared and scared Perry. Ray, who saw Perry standing near the edge of a hole, threw a rock to scare away the dog. However, the dog's reaction frightened Perry, causing her to fall into the hole. A few moments later, Ray woke up feeling dizzy due to a head injury. He vaguely saw Joanne trying to wake up Perry. Joanne, seeing Ray in a daze, tried to bring him back to his senses. Seemingly unaware of what had happened, Ray pushed Joanne away and tried to focus with his eyes closed. A moment later, Ray, as if returning to reality, approached Joanne, who was holding Perry. They then took Perry to the hospital because she was complaining of pain in her arm. Upon arriving at the hospital, Ray went straight to the receptionist. Ray was asked to wait in line with the other patients. He then returned to the waiting room and talked to Joanne, who was sitting near the window. For some reason, Ray felt like people were looking at him with strange expressions. Worried about Perry's condition, Ray went back to the receptionist's desk. However, he didn't see anyone there. Suddenly, the receptionist's voice startled him as she asked him to register and write down the patient's name. When he was about to return to the waiting room, Ray accidentally overheard the receptionist talking about a young patient's blood type and a Dr. Bertram. Because Joanne was feeling dizzy, Ray went to get her a drink. There, Ray saw a nurse who seemed to be making a transaction with an ambulance attendant. In short, Ray was finally called by the administration department. But Ray found the admin very odd as they asked questions unrelated to his daughter's condition. The admin asked Ray about his family's history of mental illness, his history of alcohol and drug addiction, as well as blood types. The admin also asked Ray if he would be sad if Perry was registered as an organ donor. From the medical records and insurance data available, it turned out that Ray previously had a wife named Abby, who died in an accident 8 years ago. After finishing the administrative matters, Ray overheard the admin again talking on the phone about a young patient's blood type and Dr. Bertram. A few moments later, a nurse named Anna came and escorted them to Dr. Bertram's office. After examining Perry, Dr. Bertram said that there was a fracture in her arm. He also suggested doing a head scan because Perry's pupils looked abnormal. He was worried that there might be bleeding in the brain, which could cause confusion, seizures, or even coma if not treated immediately. Accompanied by Joanne, Perry was then taken to another room for a scan. Once again, Ray felt puzzled because the elevator they took was going downwards. While waiting, Ray accidentally fell asleep, and when he woke up, he realized it was already 5 p.m. As he washed his face, Ray was confused by the band-aid stuck to his forehead. Although he felt he wasn't receiving any treatment, Ray went back to the receptionist's desk and asked about Perry's condition. But the receptionist didn't have much information as the hospital staff had changed shifts. After checking, the receptionist said that she couldn't find Perry's name in the hospital's patient data. Ray asked about Dr. Bertram, but the receptionist said that Dr. Bertram had also gone home. Feeling like he was being messed around by the hospital, Ray finally got angry. He then demanded that the receptionist contact and ask the staff in the scanning room. However, without showing any sympathy, the woman even joked with the man she was on the phone with. While waiting, Ray saw a man throwing a large yellow package into the trash. Feeling that the hospital was quite strange, he suddenly remembered his daughter, who was also wearing yellow clothing. After calling, the receptionist said they had never done a scan on a patient named Perry. Ray's patience finally ran out, and without paying attention to the woman, he walked straight to the ER to look for his family. However, Ray was scolded by the security guard. Dr. Lucado, who saw the commotion, approached them. Ray then explained the situation, but after checking the patient records, Dr. Lucado also said that they had not admitted a patient named Perry. Seeing Nurse Anna, Ray asked Dr. Lucado to question her. However, Anna said that Ray had come here earlier to receive treatment for a head injury. That answer made Ray furious, and he accused the hospital of lying about his child. Seeing Ray starting to cause a commotion, Dr. Lucado ordered Ray to be sedated and taken to the 4th floor. After they left, Ray, not wanting to lose consciousness, injected his thigh with a syringe filled with adrenaline. He then got out and immediately started searching for his family's whereabouts. But it was futile because he was spotted by security again. Ray immediately ran and exited through the back door. All of this left Ray confused. He then returned to the car to calm himself. Suddenly, Ray saw a police officer. He quickly approached them and reported the incident. Ray said he was sure that the hospital staff was conspiring to hide his wife and daughter for some reason. Along with 2 police officers, Ray returned to the hospital. However, the hospital still insisted that they had never received a patient named Perry. Ray was said to have come alone to get treatment for a head injury. Ray denied it again and said that his daughter was treated by Dr. Bertram. The police asked Dr. Lucado to call the doctor. They also requested to see the scanning room. Dr. Lucado then asked a nurse to accompany the police to the scanning room on the 3rd floor. But Ray said he saw the lift indicator showing that his family was taken to the basement. Dr. Lucado refuted that and said that Ray was confused. In the scanning room, Dr. Lucado showed the scanning machine. And from the usage records that day, the machine was only used once but not for a patient named Perry. Ray said that they wouldn't find anything there because his daughter had been taken elsewhere. Soon after Dr. Bertram arrived, Ray immediately approached him and asked the doctor to tell the police the truth, but Dr. Bertram said that Ray had come to the hospital and was examined by a doctor named Bruce because he had been in a car accident. The doctor also said that he had suggested Ray undergo a scan. However, Ray refused and said he wanted to wait for his wife, named Abby, in the waiting room. Ray accused the hospital of knowing that his insurance also covered a woman named Abby and made up a story to make him look crazy. To prove Ray's words, they checked the CCTV. But none of the footage showed Ray coming in with his wife and child. Ray said that was because there were many spots not covered by the CCTV. The police began to suspect Ray because there wasn't a single piece of evidence to support his words. They then went to the treatment room because, according to Dr. Bertram, someone there might know what had happened. In that room, Ray found a yellow shell belonging to Perry. Ray said that the shell belonged to his daughter, and it was proof that Perry had been treated there. However, the police seemed unconvinced by Ray's statement. Suddenly, a psychiatrist greeted Ray. After some small talk and gaining Ray's trust, Dr. Teresa asked Ray to recount the events of Perry's incident and also the accident that happened to Abby. Dr. Teresa had already studied Ray's history and knew that Ray was an alcoholic. She then asked if Ray had been drunk when he was driving with Abby. Teresa told them that she believed Ray was experiencing severe trauma. She suggested they check the construction site, as she had a feeling that Joanne and Perry might still be there. Upon arriving, they headed straight to the construction site. They didn't see anyone there, so they went down to look for clues. The police brought in a search dog and it found a toy. Ray said it belonged to Perry, who must have dropped it from his jacket pocket. They also found quite a bit of blood. Ray claimed that the blood was his own, but the policeman, who had been suspicious the whole time, got angry and said that if that much blood had come from Ray's head, he would have been dead already. Dr. Teresa asked Ray to recount the events again. Ray then started telling everything, beginning with his argument with Joanne and how Perry fell into a hole after seeing a stray dog. But after Ray explained the chronology, Dr. Teresa asked, "Are you sure you actually saw a stray dog?" Carefully, Dr. Teresa gave her analysis. She suggested that Perry didn't fall by accident, but was actually killed by Ray himself. She explained that Ray had been angry with Joe and frustrated with Perry. Unconsciously, Ray had killed them both, but when he realized what he had done, the emotional instability and guilt over Abby's death caused his mind to create an alternate reality to protect himself from the trauma. Hearing Teresa's analysis, Ray collapsed in despair, believing that might indeed be what had happened. He didn't resist when the police moved to arrest him, but suddenly Ray saw the stray dog, and its barking snapped him back to reality. Quickly, he grabbed the police officer's gun and took Dr. Teresa hostage. Ray then locked them all in a room. He then took Dr. Teresa's access card and returned to the hospital. With the card, Ray searched room after room to find his family. He also stole a doctor's coat and headed towards the elevator. But he ran into a security guard. A fierce fight broke out, and after knocking the man out, Ray went down to the basement. There, he saw two men pushing a cart with boxes labeled human organs. Ray entered a room, and when he lifted a covering, he saw the body of a man whose body was hollow and had no eyes. He then remembered when Dr. Bertram said something about his daughter's eyes. He also recalled the administrative woman who had asked if he would be willing to donate Perry's organs. Ray quietly followed the woman. Finally, in a room, Ray saw several doctors preparing to operate on Perry. Ray burst in, pointing a gun at them, but Dr. Lucardo kept asking Ray to stop and insisted that he was confused. After saving Joe and Perry, Ray left the room, but a doctor grabbed him from behind. Ray, managing to get hold of his gun, fired it, causing an explosion. Ray quickly left, pushing the cart, but he was stopped again by a doctor. By now, Ray had had enough, so he shot the doctor in the leg and left the hospital. In the car, Perry complained that her hand still hurt. Ray started singing a song to comfort his daughter, but in reality, everything Ray saw was just a hallucination caused by his trauma. Ray wasn't actually carrying Joe and Perry. Instead, he was carrying a patient scheduled for surgery. Dr. Teresa's analysis turned out to be right. Everything Ray talked about was just a product of his mind. There was no organ trafficking at the hospital. Everything was running normally. And it was Ray who killed Joanne. His failure to save Perry made his trauma worse, because he had already failed to save his first wife. Ray became dazed after seeing Perry die. Then, without realizing it, he pushed Joanne, who had tried to snap him out of it. Ray then hid Joanne and Perry's bodies in the trunk of his car. He still believed that he had managed to save his family, but the reality was that Ray was carrying a dying patient while transporting the bodies of his wife and daughter. And the film ends. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, because by subscribing you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.